I was welding a cracked water pipe when the sky turned blood red, and our world ended in screaming metal. The beam cut through our settlement like God's own blade. Houses vanished in white fire. People I'd known since childhood became shadows burned into stone walls. The alarm sirens died with the power grid, leaving only the crackle of flames and distant sobbing. I dropped my torch, hands shaking, staring at where the Hendersons' farm used to be. Nothing left but a glass crater still glowing orange. Sarah Henderson had brought me soup yesterday when I was sick. Now she was atoms scattered across scorched earth. The ships hung above us like black tears in the sky. Sleek, silent, beautiful in their cruelty. No communication, no demands, no warning. Just death falling from heaven. Marcus. Jenny's voice cracked behind me. My sister stumbled through smoke, her nurse uniform torn, blood on her hands that wasn't hers. The medical center, it's gone. Everyone inside. My knees wanted to buckle. Dr. Kim, who delivered half the colony's babies. Nurse Peters, who'd stayed late to tend old Mrs. Garcia's pneumonia. Gone. All gone. Another beam lanced down. The school exploded in a fountain of debris. I grabbed Jenny, pulling her behind our workshop's concrete wall as chunks of ceiling rained around us. The heat blistered my face even from here. Why? Jenny sobbed against my shoulder. What did we do? We're just miners, farmers. We never hurt anyone. I didn't have an answer. Colonial Space Treaty said we were protected. Said intelligent species didn't wage war on civilians. Said a lot of things that meant nothing now. Through the smoke, I saw them. Figures in dark armor moving between the ruins, scanning with devices that hummed like angry wasps. Not finishing survivors, just cataloging. Counting bodies like inventory. One stopped near the Johnsons' collapsed garage. Tilted its helmeted head at something moving beneath the rubble. A child's cry, weak but alive. Little Tommy Johnson, maybe 6 years old. The figure raised a weapon. Clean, efficient, heartless. No, I whispered, then louder. No. I was running before thought caught up. Jenny screamed my name behind me. The alien's weapon tracked toward the sound. I dove, tackling its legs, sending us both sprawling across broken concrete. Up close, its armor was seamless, organic-looking. The helmet turned toward me, and I glimpsed something that might have been eyes behind dark glass. Cold. Studying me like a bug. It backhanded me across the face. Stars exploded. I rolled, tasting blood, grabbing a chunk of rebar from the rubble. The alien stood, weapon rising. I swung with everything I had. The rebar connected with its helmet, cracking the glass, sparks flying. It staggered. Black fluid leaked from the crack, hissing where it hit concrete. The weapon fired wild, beam scorching past my ear. I swung again, harder. The helmet shattered, revealing something that made my stomach lurch. Not a face, but a mass of writhing tendrils around a single black eye, pulsing with veins that glowed sickly green. It screamed, a sound like metal tearing. More figures turned our way, weapons charging. But I'd bought seconds. Enough to drag Tommy from the rubble, his small body limp but breathing. Run! I shouted to Jenny. She hesitated, then grabbed Tommy, sprinting toward the canyon where a few others had taken shelter. The aliens fired. Beams crisscrossed where we'd been standing. I zigzagged between ruins, lungs burning, waiting for the heat that would end everything. It didn't come. I reached the canyon edge, sliding down rocky slopes to where maybe 30 survivors huddled in a shallow cave. Faces I recognized, hollow with shock and grief. Old Pete, the mining foreman, clutched a hunting rifle with shaking hands. Those bastards, he wheezed. 40 years I've been here. Watched this place grow from nothing. Now look at it. We need to get off-world, whispered Dr. Sarah Chen, our only remaining medic. Call for help. With what? Mayor Davis's voice was broken. Communications array is slag. The ships are jamming everything anyway. Through the cave mouth, I watched our colony burn. 300 souls had called New Haven home this morning. Now we were 30 terrified people hiding in a hole, while monsters walked through our graveyard. They're not done, I said quietly. They're still searching. Cataloging. This wasn't random destruction, it was systematic. Jenny rocked Tommy gently, his unconscious form too still. Why didn't they just bomb us from orbit? Why land troops? The answer hit me like ice water. Because they want something. The colony was in the way, but something here is worth preserving. Pete spat. What could we have that star-traveling killers want? I closed my eyes, thinking. New Haven was built around rare earth mining, but those minerals existed on 100 other worlds. What made us special? What made us worth this precise, careful slaughter? Then I remembered the archaeological site. The ruins we'd found last month, buried deep in the mountain. Command had classified them, sent specialists. Dr. Martinez had been excited, talking about technology that predated human civilization by millions of years. The ruins, I breathed. They're here for the ancient site. Davis's face paled. The excavation team was up there when the attack started. If any of them survived. They didn't. Pete's voice was granite. I saw the mountain get hit. Nothing left but glass and smoke. But I was already moving, checking my gear. Maybe. Maybe not. Those ruins went deep. Natural shielding. If anyone had warning, if they got underground. Jenny grabbed my arm. Marcus, no. It's suicide. Those things are still out there. I looked at Tommy's pale face, at the broken people around me, at the glow of our dying home through the cave mouth. Rage built in my chest, hot and clean and sharp. They killed our world, I said softly. Murdered children in their beds. If there's something in those ruins they want, something valuable enough to commit genocide for, then I'm going to make sure they don't get it. I checked my welding torch, still clipped to my belt. Not much of a weapon, but it had served me well against the first alien. Anyone coming with me? Pete stood slowly, rifle in weathered hands. Those bastards killed my grandson. I'm in. Dr. Chen rose next. If there are survivors, they'll need medical attention. One by one, others stood. Not all, but enough. We were miners, farmers, mechanics. We fixed things, built things, made life possible on hostile worlds. We weren't soldiers. But we were angry. The climb took 3 hours through darkness and smoke. Alien patrols moved like ghosts through the ruins below, their lights sweeping methodically. We stayed high, following mining trails I'd used for years. The ancient site was carved into the mountain's face, a complex of chambers and tunnels that hurt to look at directly. The geometry was wrong somehow, angles that folded space, surfaces that seemed to move when you weren't watching. The excavation camp was slag, but the entrance to the ruins themselves stood untouched. Whatever had built this place, they'd built it to last. Motion sensors, Pete whispered, pointing to alien devices planted around the entrance. They're guarding it. I studied the approach, counting at least a dozen armored figures positioned in the shadows. Professional, patient, deadly. We were outnumbered 4-1 by creatures with superior weapons and armor. But they didn't know the mountain like we did. Mining shaft beat 7, I breathed to Pete. Connects to the lower chambers, right? His weathered face split in a grim smile. I. Flooded last season, but if the pumps are still running. We circled wide, staying in dead ground, until we reached the shaft entrance hidden behind a rockfall. The pumps hummed faintly, keeping the tunnel barely dry. We descended into darkness, water sloshing around our boots. The ancient tunnels were a maze of impossible angles and surfaces that seemed to absorb our flashlight beams. But I'd studied the survey maps, and Pete had walked every inch during excavation. We moved by memory and instinct through passages older than human civilization. Voices echoed ahead, human voices. We found them in the central chamber, 6 people clustered around equipment that hummed with alien energy. Dr. Martinez looked up as we approached, his face haggard but alive. "Marcus? How? We thought everyone was dead." "Most are," I said simply. "What's the situation?" He gestured helplessly at the ancient machinery around us. Crystalline structures pulsed with light, connected by conduits that seemed to twist through dimensions. "It's a weapon. Or maybe a tool, we can't tell." But when the attack started, the entire complex activated. These systems have been dormant for millions of years, and suddenly they're online. The aliens? They're trying to get in, but something's stopping them. The ruins themselves are fighting back, sealing passages, redirecting their movements. It's like the place is alive. Dr. Chen moved to tend the wounded while I approached the central console. The symbols carved into crystal hurt to focus on, shifting and writhing when observed directly. But as I stared, patterns emerged. Not language exactly, but concepts transmitted directly to the mind. Power. Purpose. Protection. And underneath it all, a vast, patient anger at those who would destroy rather than preserve. It's waiting, I realized. Waiting for someone to activate it. Martinez nodded grimly. The control sequences are complex, but we think we've figured out the basics. The question is whether we dare. This technology is beyond anything we understand. Activating it could do anything. Through the chamber walls, we heard the sound of cutting tools. The aliens were breaking through, their patience finally exhausted. Soon they'd pour into these chambers and take what they'd killed 300 people to claim. I placed my hands on the console, feeling the crystal pulse beneath my palms. The patterns shifted, responding to my touch, my intent. In my mind, I felt the weight of ancient purpose, the fury of creators who'd built this place as a final safeguard against extinction. What would you do? I asked myself. If aliens massacred your colony, murdered your world, and now reached for weapons to do it again? The answer came not in words, but in certainty. I pressed deeper into the crystal matrix, letting the ancient patterns flow through me. Power surged, crackling through conduits, lighting chambers that had been dark since before humans walked upright. The mountain itself began to hum, a deep resonance that shook dust from carved walls. Outside, the cutting sound stopped. Then came screaming. The ruins weren't just a weapon. They were a judge, jury, and executioner all in one. The ancient builders had faced their own extinction, fought their own genocidal enemies. And they'd left behind something to ensure it never happened again. Through the crystal matrix, I felt the alien ships above dying. Not destroyed, but changed. Transformed. Their crews faced the same choice we'd been given, kneel or be broken. But unlike humans, they'd never learned to value anything but dominance. The screaming faded. The mountain's hum settled to a gentle whisper. And in the sudden silence, I felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. The ruins had passed judgment. The colony was avenged. And somewhere in the crystal's depths, I sensed approval from builders long dead, satisfaction that their final gift had found worthy hands. We emerged from the mountain to find a changed world. The alien ships hung silent in the sky, dark and lifeless. Their ground forces had simply vanished, leaving only empty armor scattered across the ruins of our home. New Haven was still gone. Our dead were still dead. But the threat that had killed them would never kill again. As rescue ships arrived days later, as investigators studied the alien technology, as the galaxy learned what had happened here, I kept my hands on that ancient crystal and remembered. Sometimes the universe gives you a choice. Kneel or stand. Submit or fight. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, it gives you the power to make that choice matter. The colony was lost. But we'd found something greater. A reminder that someone, somewhere, had faced the same darkness we faced and refused to let it win. That was enough. That was everything.